The second major assignment for this course is the Family Interview Question Form. It is the first part of a three-part project. For this assignment, you will need to submit a Microsoft Word document containing a minimum of 15 open-ended questions. Format the Word document like some kind of form that will make it easy for you to take notes and write a summary of the family's responses. Some suggestions are to use bulleted prompts or tables to help organize the form. The questions you will write need to be distinctive, meaning you do not have multiple questions that ask the same thing. You should number your questions in order of your intended sequence. Think about how you can make your interview flow conversationally without jumping around from topic to topic. You should focus on positive communication and avoid sensitive questions. In the upcoming slides, I will go into more detail about some considerations for these questions. I recommend looking ahead at the assignment descriptions for assignments 4 and 5, which are the second two parts to the family interview project. You will need to use the family's responses to complete the next two parts of the project, so you need to make sure your questions gather enough information. Some of the information needed include a description of the child, including age, grade, gender, race, ethnicity, and disability, a description of the child's strengths, interests, educational history, services received, and educational needs, a description of the family characteristics, interactions, and functions, and the family's educational priorities for the child. Additionally, you need to make sure you address the family's needs at home, at school, and in the community. These needs may be related to things like daily life, education, emotional support, functioning, information, or socialization. Your questions should be open-ended instead of closed. Closed questions restrict a family's responses, like with a yes-no question or a question with a finite number of responses. The chart above gives examples of open versus closed questions. If through your open-ended question the family does not tell you the detailed information you hope for, like the child's disability and grade, you can ask the closed questions as a follow-up question. Not asking these closed questions right away puts the focus on the person instead of on the disability, which is what you should strive for in this interview. Your questions should be positively worded. Be careful about using sensitive language like problems, issues, struggles, and fix. Instead, try using words like needs and challenges. If you want to ask about a child's difficulties, try to pair questions with something positive as well. Notice how in my second example, I asked about both strengths and challenges. Avoid making assumptions in your questions, particularly when the assumptions are negative. If you're ever not sure about something, you could ask a closed question with a follow-up rather than making an assumption. You can, however, assume positive things, like the fact that the student has an educational goal, strength, and interest. All students have these things, so it's not wrong to assume that. It's a really good idea to write potential follow-up questions right away in case the family does not give you as detailed of a response as you would like. When you ask your questions, you may only want to start with the first part of the question and then ask the follow-up questions to prompt the lengthier response as needed. Have a clear goal for all of your questions. In other words, know what information you want to gain with each question. Set up your Word document form so there's a place for you to take notes on that information. Your questions should be warm, friendly, and conversational. It should not sound like you are quizzing the family on our course content. Save the academic language for your interview report write-up. Avoid questions like, what are the boundaries with your family? Or what are the interactions like between siblings? A better way to gather this information in a family-friendly way is something like this. You've shared a lot about your relationship with Sam. Tell me about the relationship between Sam and his siblings. How well do they get along? What are some things they like to do together? Are there ever times when their relationship is a challenge? Tell me more about that. Even though that last follow-up question is closed, I chose to word it this way to not make negative assumptions. Notice how I followed that closed question with a prompt to avoid a one-word response. I posted a great chapter from the Friend and Cook textbook called Interactions. This chapter discusses asking questions and interviewing skills. It goes into detail about the differences between topics like open versus closed questions and direct versus indirect questions. It also gives great tips about adding some presupposition to your questions to encourage detailed responses. Note that presupposition is different from making assumptions, which is something I ask you not to do. I suggest you look at this supplemental resource and use it when you're writing your questions. Remember, I use a general grading rubric and grading scale to evaluate your work. In order to earn full points, you need to go above and beyond minimum requirements and show your best work. Again, this assignment introduction video is not a replacement for carefully reading the assignment description. Refer to the assignment description and rubrics whenever you have questions. Please only email me with questions after you have already looked for the answer on this document.